begin by asking the quintessential question as to what is a Bitcoin, or rather, what is a cryptocurrency. So, cryptocurrency is something which you always, I'm sure everybody today, whoever is attending, has heard about Bitcoin. And what is latest on the Bitcoin front is that in the world markets, the value of Bitcoin has come as close to $20,000 per Bitcoin. Okay, and it's also something which is trading in India, not only in just world market. And there are investors, maybe handful of them, maybe chunk of investors in India who have invested adequate amount of money in Bitcoins. So let's understand. Somewhere in 2008, there was a paper which was produced by this person called Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto first time conceptualized a terminology called peer-to-peer transaction. Okay, now let's understand with a simple example. I am sitting over here in Mumbai, and if I want to transfer money to, let's say, somebody who's sitting in Delhi online, how do I transfer the money? I transfer the money, let's say through Paytm. I transfer the money, let's say through Google, or I can also make a bank-to-bank transfer. So, what is involved, or rather, who are involved? There are three people who are actually involved. I am there, the person who is going to receive the money in Delhi, he is there, and you have a bank. Okay, why do you have a bank? You have a bank to actually authenticate the entire transaction. First of all, confirm that okay, Rashmi has 100 rupees in her account, it is confirmed. And secondly, Rashmi is doing the transaction of shifting that 100 rupees from her account to somebody else who is sitting in Delhi. Okay, this entire transaction between the person who is sitting in Delhi and me has to be authenticated by a bank. And why does it need to be authenticated? Because there is no other form to probably confirm the fact that I owe the 100 rupees and the transaction which I have made to the other person is a true, clear transaction. Okay, so in all these kind of transactions, you always have to have a third party to authenticate the transaction. In most of the cases, it is the bank. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto in his paper has actually conceptualized peer-to-peer transaction without the requirement of having a third party authenticate a transaction. Okay, so if I am sitting over here in Bombay and I have to give my bitcoins to somebody in Delhi, I do not have to have a bank which is going to authenticate the transaction. Okay, and now you ask me the question as to why. Okay, so the reason is the Bitcoin or the technology, the blockchain technology, which has powered this concept of Bitcoin, has made the Bitcoin completely secure. How has it made it secure? If I am the one who has a Bitcoin in my system, okay, I transfer it to, let's say, B. B transfers it to C. C transfers it to D, and so on, so on. This entire transaction from transferring to Rashmi to A to B to C to D is all authenticated by all the systems. Every time C to D has to make a transaction, my system will authenticate the transaction that yes, in my system I used to have this Bitcoin, which from my system moved to A system is going to authenticate the transaction saying that yes, I received the Bitcoin from Rashmi in my system. Similarly, B will have to authenticate. So you understand there are blocks, and every system for every further transaction has to very much authenticate it. So when there are multiple systems which are involved in one transaction and the transaction is not centralized, the authenticity of transaction is confirmed. So if I move a Bitcoin from one system to the other system, all the previous systems where the Bitcoins were there will have to authenticate it. So therefore, you do not require a third party like a bank or any other financial institution for the purpose of letting you know the authenticity of Bitcoin and the fact that the Bitcoin was with Rashmi at one point of time. So that is the beauty of this blockchain transaction. And from this blockchain transaction, this technology, you have a digital asset which is nothing but a Bitcoin. Apart from Bitcoins, there are other cryptocurrencies also. Bitcoin, of course, is one of the most famous ones. You have Ethereum, you have something called Tron, you have something called XRP. So there are various Bitcoins which are trading as crypto assets or digital assets currently in various exchanges of the world, cryptocurrency exchanges of the world. And as you must be hearing, Bitcoin today, we are talking about COVID era, it has touched 20,000 per Bitcoin. Similarly, other cryptocurrencies are also climbing, their value is also increasing. So ultimately, this is a digital asset, and this digital asset is backed by a technology, a robust technology called blockchain.